What would you do if a peaceful morning by the river turned into a heart-pounding encounter with a stranger's desperate cry? Picture Tom Grayson, a 70-year-old Navy veteran, standing in the frigid waters of the Tennessee River, his fishing line trembling with more than just a catch. It's a mystery that will unravel his quiet, solitary life. One pull drags him into a tale of bravery, peril, and an unsung hero, showing that even the tiniest act of compassion can surge into a wave of transformation. Tom's about to learn that the river holds more than trout. It holds a fate he never anticipated. Stay tuned, because this story of resilience and redemption will leave you inspired and on edge. Tom's existence is a weathered snapshot of brighter times, its corners frayed by years of solitude. Once a sailor who navigated the stormy seas of the Gulf War, he now resides in a creaky cabin on the edge of Chattanooga, Tennessee, where the Tennessee River snakes through the oaks like a shimmering ribbon. His mornings are a ritual of stiff limbs, strong coffee in a dented tin mug, and the faint hum of a radio that hasn't picked up a clear signal since the Clinton era. The river's his refuge, its gentle ripples a salve for a soul burdened by memories of roaring waves, of fallen comrades, of a life that once brimmed with meaning. Today, a November sky looms heavy, the air crisp with the scent of frost, and Tom's wading in, his patched waders hugging his legs, his tackle box battered but trusty. He casts his line, the soft splash a quiet hope for calm, or perhaps just a trout for supper. But as the line tightens, it's not a fish on the hook. It's a man, half submerged and clinging to a fallen log in the rapids, his eyes wide with a terror Tom recognizes all too well. Now, step into Tom's boots, the icy water numbing your calves, your hands shaking not just from the cold, but from the weight of a decision. You're a veteran scraping by on a meager pension, your cabin one harsh winter from falling apart, and your body bears the scars and pains of a war that never fully released its grip. A stranger's gasping for help, his voice a jagged plea slicing through the river's whisper, and you can feel the ghosts of your past stirring. Sailors you couldn't save, oaths you couldn't keep. Do you plunge in deeper, risking your own frail strength to haul him out, because you've never abandoned a soul in need? Not on the high seas, not now? Or do you hesitate, your instincts urging caution, wondering if this man's trouble is more than your fragile life can handle? Share your choice in the comments below. Type 1 if you'd dive in to save him, or 2 if you'd hold back and assess the danger. While you're there, please subscribe to Daily Narrated Stories. We're on a heartfelt mission to reach 1,000 subscribers, and your support means the world to us as we share more stories of ordinary people discovering extraordinary purpose. Hit that subscribe button, join our growing family, and let's dive deeper into Tom's river rescue together. The Tennessee's current pulls at Tom's waders, its icy embrace a stark reminder of the freezing nights on a destroyer in '91, when he'd pulled a wounded crewmate from the water as missiles lit up the sky, their fiery trails a deadly dance in the stormy night. He peers through the mist curling off the water. The strangers form a shadowy blur against the pale riverbed, his silhouette sharp against the river's flow. The man's caught in a tangle of branches, his drenched clothes clinging like a second skin, and his gasps for air are ragged, piercing the morning's quiet like a siren through fog. Tom's heart pounds, a surge of adrenaline he hasn't felt in decades. Not since the war, not since the nights he woke gasping, hands reaching for a helm that wasn't there, his sheets damp with sweat as the ocean's ghosts murmured in the dark. Something's off here, something more than a man swept downstream. Those eyes, frantic, hunted, aren't a fisherman's. They're a warrior's, a man fleeing something. And Tom knows that look like he knows the ache in his back, the kind of fear that carves itself into a man's core after too many near misses, too many losses. Hold on, friend, are you okay? Tom calls, his voice gruff as the rocky shore, carried off by a breeze that rustles the bare oaks, their branches swaying like silent witnesses to a tragedy unfolding. The man's head snaps up, water dripping from his sandy hair, plastering it to a face pale and bruised, his skin almost ghostly in the dim light. He chokes out a single word, help. It's raw, a cry that hits Tom like a wave, stirring memories of a young ensign and his crew, bleeding out on the deck, whispering the same word before the light faded from his eyes. the sea's salt mingling with the coppery scent of blood on Tom's hands. Tom's breath hitches, his chest tight with a sorrow he thought he'd buried, a scar that never fully healed, throbbing beneath the surface of his quiet days. He drops his rod, the reel clattering against the stones, the sound lost in the river's murmur, a faint echo of the explosions that once filled his nights. He wades closer, the water's a living force, tugging at his legs, its chill seeping through the patched rubber of his waders, pricking his arthritic joints with a sharpness that makes him grimace. He clenches his jaw, teeth gritted against the pain, and presses on, his boots slipping on the mossy riverbed, each step a struggle against the current and his own body's complaints. He's hauled men from worse, storms, blood, chaos. This is just water, he tells himself, though his pulse races with every step, a sailor's instinct whispering that this is no ordinary rescue, that the river's hiding more than trout today. Up close, the stranger's a mess. Cuts lace his hands, the skin raw and inflamed, as if he's fought through thorns. A bruise spreads dark across his jaw, its edges fading to a sickly green, and his jacket's torn at the elbow, the fabric frayed like he's been dragged through a nightmare, threads dangling like the unraveling pieces of his story. Tom grips a branch for balance, the bark rough under his weathered palm, its dampness slick against his skin, the cold sinking into his bones. He reaches out with his other hand, the river's chill stiffening his fingers, his knuckles whitening as he fights the numbness creeping up his arm. Take my hand. I've got you. The man's grip is feeble but desperate, his fingers cold as ice as they latch onto Tom's wrist, a lifeline in the swirling rapids. Their chill a stark contrast to the warmth of Tom's resolve. With a groan, Tom pulls, his muscles straining under his faded plaid shirt, the kind of strength forged by years of survival. Not Jim Mirrors, a strength that's carried him through typhoons and firefights, through nights when the only thing keeping him alive was the promise of dawn. The stranger collapses onto the bank, coughing up river water that reeks of silt and decay, its earthy tang sharp in the crisp air, a scent that reminds Tom of the Persian Gulf, of waves that swallowed screams and blood that stained his hands. Tom kneels beside him, his knees creaking as they sink into the muddy bank, the dampness soaking through his jeans, and pats the man's back, the sound a dull thud against wet fabric, each cough a reminder of how close this man came to slipping away, his life a fragile thread in the river's grasp. You're okay now, Tom says, though doubt gnaws at him like a riptide, its pull relentless with uncertainty. Safe from what? The man's shivering, his teeth chattering like a distress signal, his breath fogging in the November air, each exhale a small cloud that fades into the mist. Tom's cabin's a mile hike through the woods, and this man's in no shape to walk, his body trembling with a ferocity that speaks of more than just cold, fear, exhaustion, a battle Tom can't yet see. The wind picks up, rattling the oaks, their branches creaking like the hull of an old ship, a sound that echoes the creak of Tom's own joints, and his gut twists, a knot of unease tightening with every gust. Something's coming. He can feel it, a prickle on his neck like the calm before a squall in the Gulf, when the sea held its breath and danger loomed on the horizon. He scans the tree line, half expecting shadows to move, his eyes darting from tree to tree, searching for the glint of a weapon, the flicker of movement that would mean danger. But it's just him, the river, and this mystery man who's heavier than he looks, physically and otherwise, a burden that weighs on Tom's shoulders like the ghosts of his past. The sky darkens, clouds thickening like a storm brewing, their edges tinged with the threat of rain, and the air grows colder, biting at Tom's exposed skin, a warning he can't ignore, a chill that seeps into his bones and whispers of trouble ahead. A twig snaps in the woods, too heavy for a squirrel, and Tom's head jerks toward the sound, his heart skipping a beat. Was that a footstep? The hairs on his arms stand on end, a sailor's instinct honed by years of watching for threats in the dark. He shakes his head, trying to dismiss it as paranoia, but the unease lingers, a shadow cast by the past. Who are you running from? Tom asks, keeping his tone calm, like he's coaxing a skittish crewmate, his eyes searching the stranger's face for answers, for a clue to the storm he's stumbled into. The man's gaze flickers, locking onto Tom's with an intensity that sends a shiver down his spine, a look that's both desperate and guarded, as if he's weighing whether to trust this grizzled veteran with a truth too heavy to carry alone. "There, near," he rasps, voice barely above a whisper, each word a struggle against the cold gripping his lungs, his breath hitching with the effort. "Can't let them find me." Tom frowns, his weathered brows knitting together, the lines on his forehead deepening like the creases in his old Navy jacket, a garment that's seen as many storms as he has. "They? Who's they?" But the man's head slumps, exhaustion overtaking him, his eyes fluttering shut as his body sags against the bank, his silence a barrier Tom can't breach. His silence leaves more questions than answers, hanging in the air like the mist over the river, a fog of uncertainty that clouds Tom's thoughts, and his mind races. Escaped fugitive? Drifter in trouble? Or something worse, something tied to the life he left behind in uniform, a life of orders and enemies, of secrets buried in the waters of the Gulf? Tom's hands shake as he adjusts his grip on the stranger, not from the cold, but from the memories that flood back, unbidden and relentless. He's back in 92, a destroyer under attack, the air thick with smoke and the cries of the wounded, his crew caught in a barrage of enemy fire. He dragged a young sailor, Danny, a kid from Maine with a grin like sunlight, out of a flooded compartment, the water rising fast, the heat of explosions searing his skin as he swam. Danny had survived, but the scars on Tom's shoulder, hidden beneath his plaid, are a permanent reminder of that night, a map of pain etched into his flesh. Now, kneeling by the Tennessee, he feels that same urgency, that same need to save, but the stakes are different, the enemy unknown. He looks at the stranger, at the cuts on his hands, the bruise on his jaw, and wonders what battles this man has fought, what scars he carries beneath his torn jacket. The river's murmur grows louder, a steady hum that seems to mock Tom's uncertainty, its flow a reminder of time slipping away, of chances he might not get again. He hauls the stranger up, slinging the man's arm over his shoulder, the weight pressing into his old shrapnel scar from a 90 mission gone wrong, a jagged reminder of a missile that took 2 of his crew, their screams echoing in his nightmares for decades. Every step through the woods is a battle. The uneven ground, the stranger's dragging feet, the ache in Tom's back screaming louder with each yard, a pain that radiates up his spine like a fire spreading through dry grass. Oak leaves crunch underfoot, their sharp scent mingling with the damp earth, a smell that takes him back to nights on watch, the air thick with the tang of salt and fear, the taste of it bitter on his tongue. His boots slip on a root, and he stumbles, the stranger's weight nearly pulling him down, a sharp jolt that sends a spike of pain through his bad hip, the one that's never been right since a rough landing in '89. He catches himself against a tree, the bark scraping his palm, a sting that grounds him, the rough texture a tether to the present as he fights the pull of the past. His breath comes in ragged gasps, fogging in the cold air, each exhale a testament to the effort it takes to keep moving, to keep fighting, to keep saving. The woods are a maze of shadows, the oaks stretching overhead, their branches forming a canopy that blocks out what little light remains, casting dappled patterns on the forest floor. Tom's eyes dart around, searching for threats, his senses heightened by years of training that never fully faded. A raccoon skitters through the underbrush, its claws scratching against a log, and Tom flinches, his free hand instinctively reaching for a sidearm that isn't there, a reflex from a time when every sound could mean danger. He mutters under his breath, shaking his head to clear the fog of memory, but the woods seem to close in, their silence heavy, broken only by the rustle of leaves and the stranger's shallow breathing. Tom's mind churns with questions. Who is this man? What's he running from? And why does Tom feel like he's been pulled into a war he didn't sign up for? The river's murmur fades as they move deeper into the woods, replaced by the creak of branches and the distant call of a hawk, a sound that sends a shiver down Tom's spine, a reminder of nights spent on deck, waiting for an enemy that always came. His cabin emerges through the trees, a wooden shack patched with tarp and grit, its porch sagging like it's weary of standing, the roof speckled with moss like age spots on an old face. The sight of it brings a flicker of relief, a beacon of safety in the growing dark, but Tom's unease lingers, a shadow that follows him across the threshold. Inside, He lowers the man onto a worn couch, the springs groaning under the weight, a sound that echoes the creak of Tom's own bones, a symphony of age and weariness. The room's dim, lit by a single lamp flickering like a dying star, casting shadows over walls faded by time, and the faint scent of pipe smoke Tom quit years ago, or so he tells himself, though the tin in his pocket says otherwise. He stokes the wood stove, the crackle of kindling a small comfort as heat seeps into the chill, the scent of burning oak filling the air with a warmth that clashes with the cold knot in his stomach, a knot that tightens with every glance at the stranger's bruised face. The stranger's breathing steadies, but his face, pale, taut, still holds secrets, his lips tinged blue from the river's grip, a stark contrast to the flush of life slowly returning to his cheeks. Tom rummages through his kitchen, the clink of a tin mug against the counter a familiar sound as he heats water on a propane stove that's seen better days, its flames sputtering like it's as tired as he is, the blue glow a faint promise of warmth. He wraps the man in a wool blanket, its roughness a small price for warmth, the coarse fibers scratching against his own hands as he tucks it around the stranger's shoulders, the texture a reminder of Navy-issued blankets that never quite kept out the cold. He presses a mug of chamomile tea into the man's hands, the steam curling upward like a ghost rising from the river, its faint floral scent a fragile peace in the tense air, a scent that reminds Tom of his late wife, Ellen, who used to brew the same tea on nights when his nightmares kept them both awake. He can almost hear her now, humming a lullaby, her voice soft as the moonlight filtering through the window, a melody that once soothed his restless soul after nights haunted by the screams of the sea. "Drink this, then talk," Tom says, his voice gruff but not unkind, a tone honed by years of giving orders, of coaxing scared sailors through their first storms. The stranger nods, sipping slowly, the mug trembling in his grip as the heat revives him, his shivering slowing to a faint tremor, his fingers tightening around the tin as if it's the only thing anchoring him to the world. He studies Tom, his eyes tracing the lines of a face weathered by war and time, lingering on the faded Navy tattoo, peeking from under Tom's rolled sleeve, an anchor inked in '88, now blurred but steadfast, a symbol of a life Tom can't fully leave behind. "Name's Ethan," he finally says, voice hoarse but stronger, each word a small victory over the cold, over the fear that still lingers in his gaze. "Ethan Cole." Tom leans against the counter, arms crossed, his plaid shirt stretched tight over shoulders that still carry the ghost of a sailor's strength, the fabric worn thin at the elbows, a testament to years of hard living. "All right, Ethan Cole. What's after you?" Ethan's eyes drop to the mug, fingers tightening around it like it's a lifeline, the tin dented under his grip, a small imperfection that mirrors the cracks in his composure. "I can't not yet, but I owe you, sir, more than you know." Tom snorts, a dry sound born of skepticism and too many hard years, his breath fogging in the cool air of the cabin, a reminder of the chill that still clings to them both. "I ain't, sir. I'm Tom Grayson, and I didn't pull you out for favors. Just don't like seeing a man drown." The afternoon fades into dusk, the cabin's windows glowing amber with a sunset Tom barely notices, its light filtering through dusty glass to paint the room in shades of fire and shadow, a warmth that feels hollow against the tension in the air. Ethan's asleep, his chest rising and falling under the blanket, the rhythm steady but shallow, a man clinging to life after a battle Tom can only guess at, his face relaxed in sleep, but still etched with the lines of a fight not yet won. Tom's restless, his mind a tangle of questions that knot tighter with every passing hour, each one a thread in a web he can't untangle. He steps onto the porch, the boards creaking under his boots, a sound as familiar as his own heartbeat, and lights a pipe he swore he'd given up, a habit that creeps back when his nerves jangle, the earthy smoke a bitter comfort, its taste sharp on his tongue, a reminder of nights spent on watch, waiting for an enemy that always came. The river's a silver ribbon in the distance, its murmur drowned by the hum of crickets, and something else, a low rumble he can't place, a vibration in the air that sets his teeth on edge, a sound that's too mechanical, too deliberate to be natural. He exhales smoke, watching it drift into the twilight, a gray wisp against the deepening blue, and wonders if he's just hauled trouble into his life, a storm he can't outrun. 40 years ago, he'd have charged into this mystery, pistol in hand, his crew at his back, their laughter a shield against the fear. Now, he's got a bad hip, a leaky roof, and a bank account that's more dust than dollars, a life held together by tarp and stubbornness. What's he supposed to do with a half-dead stranger who talks like he's got enemies in the shadows? Tom's thoughts drift to Ellen, his wife of 35 years, gone now for 8 years, her absence a void he can't fill, a silence louder than the river's song. She'd known how to steady him, her voice soft as the chamomile tea she brewed, her touch a balm for the wounds he carried, both visible and hidden. On nights when the Gulf's ghosts haunted him, she'd hum an old hymn, her fingers tracing circles on his back, her warmth pulling him back from the abyss. She'd have known what to do with Ethan, how to coax his story out, how to make sense of the fear in his eyes. Tom can almost hear her now, her laughter a melody in the wind, telling him to trust his gut, to do what's right, even when it's hard. But Ellen's gone, and Tom's alone. The weight of his choices heavier than the stranger on his couch, heavier than the pistol he keeps in the closet, a relic of a life he thought he'd left behind. Night falls heavy, the kind of dark that presses against the windows like it wants in, the stars hidden by a thick blanket of clouds that promise rain, their edges glowing faintly with the threat of a storm. Tom's dozing in his armchair, a Gulf War memoir open on his lap, the pages yellowed and dog-eared, the words blurring as his eyes grow heavy, when a thud jolts him awake, his heart leaping into his throat, a surge of adrenaline that pulls him back to the present. Ethan's on his feet, swaying, eyes wide as he peers through the blinds, the slats casting striped shadows across his bruised face, his breath coming in short, sharp gasps. "They're here," he whispers, panic threading his voice, a tremor that sends a chill down Tom's spine, a fear that's contagious, spreading through the cabin like wildfire. Before Tom can ask, headlights slice through the dark, 2 black SUVs tearing up the dirt path, gravel spitting under their tires, the sound a harsh growl in the quiet night, a predator's roar that shatters the stillness. Tom's pulse spikes, adrenaline flooding his veins like it's 1991 and the enemy's closing in, the ocean's roar replaced by the cabin's chill, the scent of gunpowder replaced by the faint tang of oak and smoke. He grabs his old hunting rifle from the closet, the wood smooth under his grip, its weight of familiar comfort as he chambers around with a click that echoes in the silence, a sound that pulls him back to a carrier deck under siege, to nights when survival was a roll of the dice. "Who's they?" Tom demands, his voice low and sharp, the sailor in him waking up, his hands steady despite the tremor of age, his eyes narrowing as he takes in Ethan's pale face, the sweat beading on his forehead despite the chill. Ethan's face pales further, his eyes darting to the window as the headlights grow brighter, pinning the cabin in their glare, a spotlight on a stage Tom never wanted to step onto. "Enemy's mine. Yours too, maybe," he says, his voice a ragged whisper, the words cryptic and heavy with a truth Tom can't yet grasp, a puzzle with pieces he doesn't have. The answer only fuels Tom's unease, a fire in his gut that burns hotter with every second. But there's no time to dig deeper, no time to unravel the mystery of Ethan's words. The vehicles stop, doors slamming with a force that shakes the night, the sound of thunderclap in the stillness, and silhouettes move in the dark. 6, maybe 7, their steps deliberate, their shapes blurred by the glare of the headlights, their shadows long and menacing against the cabin's walls. Tom's cabin's no stronghold, just a wooden shell against whatever's coming. Its walls thin as his patience, its windows rattling in the wind, a fragile barrier between him and the danger outside. "Stay down," Tom orders, crouching by the window, rifle steady despite the tremor in his hands, the cold metal a grounding weight against his racing heart, a lifeline in the storm of uncertainty. A knock pounds the door, hard, unyielding, the kind that demands compliance, a sound that echoes like a cannon in the tense air, a call to battle Tom can't ignore. "Open the door, Grayson. We know he's in there." The voice is sharp, authoritative, and Tom's stomach drops, a cold sweat breaking out on his forehead, his breath hitching as the words sink in. How do they know his name? His mind races. Old missions, past enemies, faces he buried long ago in the waters of the Gulf, foes he thought he'd left behind when he hung up his uniform. He cracks the door, barrel peeking out, the muzzle a silent threat, a warning to whoever's on the other side, and sees a man in tactical gear, face shadowed by a cap, his eyes glinting with a cold determination, a predator's gaze that sends a shiver down Tom's spine. "Who are you after?" Tom growls, buying time, his finger hovering near the trigger, the rifle's weight a reminder of battles he thought he'd left behind, of nights when the only thing between him and death was the weapon in his hands. "Ethan Cole, hand him over," and this ends quietly. The man's tone's icy, but there's a twitch in his jaw, nervousness, maybe, or impatience, a crack in his armor that Tom notices, filing it away like he used to on patrol, a detail that could mean the difference between life and death. Tom glances back at Ethan, who's shaking his head, mouthing no, his eyes pleading, a silent promise of danger if Tom complies, a fear that's palpable, a weight that presses down on them both. The standoff stretches, tension thick as the river mud, the air heavy with the scent of diesel and fear, a storm brewing in the space between them, until a new sound cuts through, a helicopter's thump-thump, low and fast, closing in from the west, its roar a lifeline in the dark. The men outside curse, scattering as floodlights bathe the yard in white, the glare blinding, dust swirling like a tempest as the helicopter lands, its rotors a deafening roar that drowns out the night, a sound that promises salvation or judgment. Soldiers spill out, rifles raised, shouting orders that crack like lightning, their boots hitting the ground with a synchronized thud that reverberates through the cabin's thin walls, a rhythm of discipline that Tom recognizes from his own days in uniform. The tactical team bolts, tires squealing as they peel away, their taillights fading into the dark, a retreat that feels too easy, too quick, leaving Tom's nerves jangling with suspicion. The chopper's crew isn't pursuing, their focus on the cabin, on the man inside, and Tom's grip on the rifle tightens, his instincts screaming that this isn't over, that the danger's only shifted, not vanished. A general steps forward, his insignia glinting in the floodlights, his boots crunching gravel as he approaches Tom's porch, his presence a stark contrast to the chaos of moments before, a calm in the eye of the storm. "Thomas Grayson," he asks, voice steady but commanding, his eyes sharp as they take in Tom's rifle, the cabin, the man trembling behind him, a gaze that sees more than Tom wants to show. Tom lowers his weapon, confusion warring with relief, his breath fogging in the cold night air, a cloud of uncertainty that mirrors his thoughts. "Yeah, what's this about?" The general's gaze shifts to Ethan, who's limped to the doorway, a faint smile breaking through his exhaustion, his posture straightening despite the pain etched into his features, a soldier stepping into the light. "You just saved one of our own, Mr. Grayson. Colonel Ethan Cole, Special Forces. He's been on the run from a rogue cell hunting him for what he knows." Tom's jaw drops, the rifle slipping in his grip, the weight of the revelation hitting him like a torpedo, a blast that shatters the fragile calm he'd clung to. "Colonel." Ethan nods, stepping into the light, his torn jacket now a badge of honor, his eyes steady despite the bruises marring his face, a man transformed by the truth of his identity. "I was undercover, Tom. Got too close to something big. Enemy operative stateside, working to sabotage military ops. They ambushed me upstream. Thought I'd lost them till you pulled me out." The general claps Tom's shoulder, the gesture heavy with respect, his hand firm against Tom's plaid, a touch that grounds him in the surreal moment. "You've got instincts, sailor. Cole's alive because of you." The soldiers secure the area, their movements precise, a dance of discipline that Tom recognizes from his own days in uniform, a choreography of survival that feels both foreign and familiar. Ethan's escorted to the chopper, his limp more pronounced now, but his head's high, a soldier returning to his own, his mission unfinished but his life preserved. Tom watches, the floodlights casting long shadows across the yard, the gravel glinting like shattered glass under the glare, a battlefield transformed by the light of truth. The general lingers, pulling a small envelope from his jacket, the paper crisp against the night's chaos, a stark contrast to the dirt and blood of the day. "This is for you," he says, his voice softer now, a warmth in his tone that catches Tom off guard, a kindness he hadn't expected. "Cole told us about your situation, your service, your struggles. The Navy takes care of its own." Tom opens the envelope, his fingers trembling not from the cold but from a dawning hope, a light breaking through the darkness of his doubts, and finds a check, enough to fix the cabin, pay the bills, maybe even buy a new fishing rod, a lifeline he never thought he'd see. A note inside reads, "For a brother at sea, from those you've saved." The chopper lifts off, its roar fading into the night, leaving Tom on his porch, the envelope clutched in his hands, the paper crinkling under his grip. The Tennessee flows on, its whispers now laced with pride, a song of redemption that drowns out the ghosts of his past. Tom lights another pipe, the ember glowing like a tiny beacon in the dark, and reflects on a life that's suddenly bigger than he ever imagined. A humble fisherman, scraping by on river trout and memories, just turned the tide for a hero he didn't even know. He's not just a man who survived war. He's a man who still fights for others, even when the battlefield's a muddy riverbank, even when his own life's a patchwork of loss and longing. This moment, this night, is a stitch in that patchwork, a patch of light against the dark, a reminder that courage doesn't fade with age. It just waits for the right current to carry it forward. Tom's story isn't just his. It's a mirror for us all, reflecting the quiet heroism that lives in the smallest acts of kindness. A hand extended in a river, a door opened in the night. These are the threads that weave a tapestry of resilience, of hope, of the unbreakable bonds forged in shared struggle. Tom didn't seek glory, but it found him, proving that every deed, no matter how small, can ripple into something eternal, something that outlives the battles we fight. Think about a time you helped someone, no questions asked, a moment where you acted on instinct, on heart. Maybe, like Lisa from Texas, you stopped to help a stranded motorist on a rainy night, only to find a friend for life. How did it change you? Drop your story in the comments. We're building a community of quiet heroes at Daily Narrated Stories, and your voice matters in this circle of care. 7 months later, Tom's cabin's transformed. The roof's new, the walls insulated, the porch sturdy enough to hold a rocking chair where he sips coffee on crisp mornings, watching the river glint in the dawn. The check from the Navy was a lifeline, but it's the visits from Ethan that truly mend his heart. Ethan, now recovered, stops by when he's in town, his limp gone, his gratitude a bond stronger than steel. They fish together, their lines cast side by side, sharing stories of battles fought and won, the river a witness to their brotherhood. Tom's not poor anymore, not in spirit, not in purpose. He's a regular at the local VA now, sharing coffee and laughter with men who call him the River Man, a nickname that makes him smile, a badge of honor he never expected. He's found what war never gave him, a legacy that outlives the gunfire, a purpose that fills the empty spaces left by loss. At Daily Narrated Stories, we live for tales like these, stories of hope and grit that light up the dark, reminding us that heroism isn't just on battlefields but in the quiet moments where we choose to care. Don't let this be the end. Subscribe now, time's ticking, and our next story's waiting. A nurse's midnight decision that saved a village from disaster. Hit that bell, join us before the chance slips away, and let's keep the fire of these life-changing narratives burning bright. Your click could be the spark that gets us to 1,000 subscribers. Do it for Tom, for Ethan, for the heroes still out there, waiting to be heard. This is your moment. Don't let it drift downstream.